Kick Him in the Head is a podcast that takes an inside look at the world of mixed martial arts, featuring interviews with some of the top fighters from South Africa and around the world, with a focus on the EFC and UFC promotions. Join us as we delve deep into the techniques, strategies, and mindsets of these world-class athletes, learning from their experiences and gaining insights into what makes a successful fighter in the toughest sport on earth.
Kick him in the head!
Shaheed.
What's up, my man?
Fantastic. Today we're talking UFC 290, the big one. It just happened. Oh my goodness. What a card. What a card.
We don't call it 290, we call it the South African takeover. Baby, you know what it'd be. You know what it'd be. It was hot. It was hot. It was happening. What? You know when people say cards are stacked? This card was stacked.
All the way. All the way. All the way. The only one I want to see the stack, honestly, is 291. But that's a different story.
Yeah.
Like 291, every single fight in the main card is just stacked. But 290 delivered fight after fight after fight, starting with the early prelims.
Ooh, early prelims. You know me, I like waking up early. I was there for for the patriotism. I love a good Cameron. I love a good Cameron fight. Old Cameron. I don't know. He had opponent drop out, and then another opponent drop out, and he fought Terrence. What's his name? Terrence Mitchell. He fought Terrence Mitchell, which was a bit of a no contest, man. Cameron like walked through him. It was pretty awesome, but for competitive MMA, it's a bit sad. You were talking about Morne Visser, his coach, just earlier. What was he saying?
So Morne Visser at EFC 105 was interviewed, and he said that they're trying to take Cameron a bit slow. They don't want to rush him. I mean, the bantamweight division is one of the most competitive divisions that the UFC has. So if they take him too quick, he might end up faltering. Because, you know, if you got a 9-0 record as he does now, it's very easy to get to a 12-0 record, you know, taking good fights, the right fights. You accelerate too fast, you never know what could happen. Fighter could get injured, you know, all those small things. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's not good for MMA, but I mean, it's a prelim fight, you know, you might expect a few walkovers. The question would be, when would Cameron be back on a main card or on a main card? And I think maybe you're looking at maybe 2 more fights, 3 more fights at the most. So by the time he gets to about 12-0, we'll see him on a main card for sure.
Like you said, bantamweight is very competitive, but he isn't a vocal chap, and he's got his own podcast going. I think that you did mention his coach taking him slow. He is a young guy. There is a lot of bodies to go through in the bantamweight division. He's not going to be talking. He's not going to be saying Henry Cejudo is nothing like that. He's very respectful, very nice guy. And the best way for a nice guy to come up in the ranks is by smashing bodies. And I think it's a good strategy for a young guy. But we'll have to wait and see. I do think you're right. 2-3 prelim fights and your boy will be up there. He will be smashing some big bodies. And when I guess that's we'll get to see the real test.
And with the vortex created by Dricus in front of him, you know, it becomes not easy, but he's got a channel, he's got a path, especially because they're always now on the same card, because, you know, they're in the same team, so they normally book fights together. So yeah,
he does have a good mentorship around him, and that will be integral to the building of him further. He's got big shoes to fill in the bantam. We could see him fighting Jose Aldo, for all we know. You know what I mean? A young upcoming fighter fighting. Jose
retired. Jose retired. Yeah, he's retired.
Oh,
he doesn't fight
damn it, man.
Yeah.
Sorry. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame. That's why I'm thinking of Jose. But there are huge fights to be made. I mean, I know Sean O'Malley loves to punch little guys that aren't ranked. So maybe Cameron could be fighting a Sean O'Malley sooner than we think. Um, but yeah, we'll be seeing.
So up
But
and
like
coming,
you
and then we get to the prelims. Now in the prelims, there's a few exciting fights. There was two that stood out. For me, one, Robbie Lawler versus Nico Price. And the other one that we're talking about is Jimmy Crute versus Alonzo Mainfield.
I Jimmy. We were talking about Jimmy in the light heavyweight division like he was coming for the title anytime now. Like you should be fighting right now for the heavyweight title against Pereira. Or we should be talking about that. That's how this kid was billed to us. He was billed as the next big thing, and only because he could chat some good. And that's what I'm saying. If you be able to talk the good game, maybe your fight situation, like we're seeing now with Jimmy, he's coming up on the losing streak. But if you can talk that good game and you can offer that entertaining value to the audience, you will come up quicker than the rest.
And
And
that's fair
so
enough because
yeah, it's fair enough. Yeah,
his
it's the
opponent,
nature of the game.
Mainfield, is now 14-3, and Jimmy's 12-4. So it's exactly that. That was literally a scrap for that position on the roster to say, look, I'm solidifying the next guy who's going to get a ranked opponent. Jimmy, sorry, bro.
It's hard, man. I fell for him. I really do feel for him. It's hard when you get to know these guys on a personal level. I mean, with the Instagrams and with the Twitters, you can really see a lot of these guys' lives. And when you become attached to a fighter and you see them lose and lose and lose, it's very sad. Like I'm very big fan of Kelvin Gastelum, and the way after fighting against Izzy, what has happened to him is really sad, man. It's really sad. And yeah, I just hope to see him come up. And the embrace he had with Izzy was really beautiful. Talking about another sad event, like you said, Robbie Lawler retiring. Story dreams, man. Story of dreams there.
Yeah.
Did you
First,
get to see it?
first round knockout, Nico Price, 38 seconds. I mean, what a way to go out as a legend. That's the way you go out. Unfortunately, not all the legends who try and have a last fight get the opportunity to get a 38-second knockout on an opponent,
Yeah.
but he went out and he did it, and he showed why he was in the Hall of Fame, which he got inducted to, I think it was a few days before.
Mhm.
So I mean, that's just absolutely phenomenal way to go out. For Nico Price, he could have made a name for himself to say, look, I'm one of the legend killers. I beat Robbie Lawler. I've got Robbie Lawler as one of the fighters that I beat. But unfortunately, he went down, and he went down quick, and he went down hard. And Robbie showed why he's a former champion
Do you know what?
and legend and Hall of
Yeah,
Famer.
and legend and all of them. Do you know what? I love MMA for we are adaptable. We are adaptable fans because if Nico had won well and it was a good fight, we'd be celebrating how well he's done. But we don't like to slander. You know what I mean? Like it's like if you look at Steamroller and
Unless
McKinley.
you're Booger Beard.
Yeah, unless you book a bit, bro. Well, MMA Twitter is a heavy is a whole different situation, a whole subgenre of fans happening on MMA Twitter. But I digress. We highlighted what I've seen is people are highlighting the ruthless Robbie Lawler. And rather than pulling down price, we push them both up by saying, look how well he can still perform. And the simple fact is he knows when it's time to hang it up. And it's beautiful. I think it's a beautiful role model lesson for everybody else. And Nico, it happens. It always happens. Ben Askren, Steamroller, Jose Aldo. It happens, man. It really happens, and all these guys that it's happened to are highly skilled. So no dust on Nico Price's name, but Robbie Ruthless Lawler just solidifying why he is who he is, and it's beautiful to see.
Yeah, and like you said, Nico gets to say, "Look, I lost to Robbie Lawler, so what?"
Exactly.
It's not. I got to
Exactly, man.
fight Robbie Lawler, cool. But Bo
Um,
Nickel versus Val Woodburn on the main
man,
card.
you gave me some bad advice. You know that. I got hyped up. I got hyped up. I was like, what happens if this is another Amanda Nunez
What
situation?
happens if
You hyped me up. You hyped me up, and I put my money down, and I lost it in 48 seconds. I lost it in 48 seconds. Screw you, man.
So the thing is, as
No,
much
I'm
as the
joking.
odds were stacked, right?
Yeah,
Val
man.
Woodburn had a 7-0. Bo Nickel was 5-0, right? So there, he
No,
kind of had.
it just shows why this guy is the new guy. He is the upset situation, man. This could be the person that comes in and takes the flyweight, takes the featherweight and takes the
Middleweight.
lightweight. Isn't
He's
Bo
middle.
but Bo's middle? Wow.
He's middle.
Oh,
He was supposed to
yeah.
fight Tristan Gore, and Tristan pulled out with an injury.
Shit, man. I'm thinking in an entirely different division. I was imagining your boy was in lightweight and coming to destroy people and really coming to take things up.
Nah.
Your boy is a middleweight. He's a danger to Dricus. He's a danger to Israel. I know my divisions and I know my weight classes. Don't worry, people. I know what's going on.
Jalen Turner, Dan Hooker. Now that one I know you had a very personal attachment to because you're a Dan Hooker fan.
It was
Hangman Dan.
It was a story. It was a storybook, bro. He came out there and he basically Cinderella manned it. He was hurt. He was down. I was crying. I saw
He
him
broke
get
his
hit
arm
in
in the
the
first
head.
round.
Yeah, and what I love, I think that's the reason I'm a huge fan of Dan Hooker, because after the fight, they ask him if he's okay, and he's like, "It's just a scratch." Your boy he's dislocated, he's broken, he's fractured,
I think he
and
fractured his orbital.
yeah, and he's a fighter to say, "Nah, I'm okay, I'm fine." And I think in MMA, to see somebody as durable, as withstanding, and as smiling, he's always smiling. He's always got a good vibe for the fans. He's never really too derogatory if it's not on Twitter. But yeah, that's why I'm a big Dan Hooker fan.
Or unless he's calling out Makachev for using an IV illegally.
Yo, it comes out, bro. The things come out. And the way those homies, speaking of the way those homies are so tight knit, they're at what's it, New Zealand kickboxing. Yo. Those guys, the way they feel for each other, the way they family, it's beautiful. The next situation, it was the big one for the South Africans. Give it to me, yo. Tell me what was happening in that fight.
Bobby the Reaper Whitaker versus who do we know? Dricus still knocks Du Plessis, the Springboks versus the Wallabies, and who came out on top? The Springboks. Dricus absolutely blitzed him. Honestly, that fight, Dricus, especially if you listen to the post-match, he was more than ready. CIT had literally done their homework. They had him fighting in a southpaw rather than traditional to offset it. And when I watched the fight, again, you could actually see that every time he went southpaw, Whitaker didn't know what to do. That's exactly when Dricus would then either hit him with the jab or a kick, and that's really what worked. So the fact that they had a plan, they had a methodology, they did their homework, and they executed it, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And that's the type of fight you want to see. That's the type of wins you want to see, and that's why for me, obviously, him versus Israel, and after what happened after that fight, where Israel came in the ring, dropping the N-bomb, which I can't say, but whatever. After that, seeing how Israel won against Alex, where he says, listen, I was playing possum. I knew exactly what was happening. I was waiting for him to drop the left hook, because once he drops the left hook, he's got nothing. He's open. He's all mine, which is, once again, planning, method, skill, and then execution. So for me, the fight between Dricus and Israel is just going to be an absolute chess match. I hope it's not boring. I doubt it'll be boring, because Dricus is not a boring fighter. Israel, I mean, we heard what Yoel has said about him. He can be boring. So I'm really looking forward to that fight. And it's at UFC 293, which is announced yesterday.
Wow. It is. That's historic for South African MMA, and for us, all our South African fans and African fans here. I mean, the way that you explained, and the way you just highlighted the beautifulness of this fight. It's two men fighting to be African, fighting to be the African champ. And it's a really beautiful thing. And the more we take away the stigma and the racial and all the other things, we come out with this beautiful diamond of pressure that has been formed over these two skilled titans coming together to fight for something that has been in contention for many years, to see yourself and to be African, to see whether being born in a country makes you that nationality, or whether do you have to fight for that right. And I think it's beautiful. I think it's so, so beautiful to just want to be African so badly that you'll fight for that right. It's beautiful, man.
Or fight for the right to say, I am African.
An African champ.
That's it. I am, thank you, an African champ, to be very specific.
Baby, it's gonna be hot.
Brandon Moreno, Alejandro Pantoja.
No, I have to bring it back. I have to
Okay,
give my
let's go back.
opinion a little
Let's go
bit.
back.
I have to bring my opinion.
That's my bag. Let's get it.
I think between the two, it's interesting, because neither one of them is a guy to stand back. They are. We've seen both of them go into danger. With Yoel, I think it stylistically didn't match up very well. Yoel wanted to hold Izzy. Izzy didn't want to be held, as always, and he knew the danger, and he worked it out. This fight, Dricus is not going to stand. He is going to move forward. He's not going to come for the takedown. He is going to stand and bang with the most dangerous striker in the UFC. We have seen Israel dismantle people with his striking. And Dricus, right or wrong, is going to come straight. He is not going, I don't believe he's going to go for a takedown until the third round. If this fight gets that far, it is going to be a banger. We are just going to have these two guys coming out to wanting to hurt each other, and that's beautiful. Brandon Moreno Pantoja. Sorry.
Flyweight title bout. Now, that was a hell of a scrap. That one went the distance to decision. They beat the heck out of each other. Brandon Moreno is one of the most exciting fighters in the UFC. He makes the strongest case, one of the strongest cases for having a flyweight division. And Alejandro Pantoja came in and he did the job. It's their third fight. One was in the Ultimate Fighter. Previously, they fought within the UFC, and Pantoja won both of them. So this essentially was trilogy, even though it wasn't billed as a trilogy, obviously because the Ultimate Fighter doesn't really count. But
yeah,
he came out and he did the business. He said, I know what I'm here for. I'm fighting for my family, and I'm going to take this title. And it was a hell of a fight. Definitely fight of the night.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's very important to note that, excuse me, sorry. In the last couple of fights, I don't know how many Brandon has had, but in his last couple of fights, I think only one of them hasn't been a title fight. Against Kaya France. Was that a title fight? Wasn't, right?
No, it was for number one contendership to fight Figueiredo.
Exactly.
And then he got the trilogy.
Yeah, so all of these fights that we've seen, like heavily publicized, have all been title fights. I don't know if we're gonna go for the UFC trilogy or the what would it be called if they fight 4 times?
Quadrilogy.
The quadrilogy. Yeah, that sounds epic. The quadrilogy. Um, I don't know if we're gonna go for that straight away. Pantoja, hey, Pantoja Moreno. I don't know if people want that again, but Moreno is the strongest fighter so far in the flyweight division. And for him to lose the way he did, there's a lot of question marks. I think people want to see that fight again. It was he brings it back to the Figueroa, and when he was fighting there, those fights were insane, entertaining, everything like that. But do we need a new contender? Do we need new blood? Is it getting a bit tired seeing Moreno all the time?
I think that's pretty much where the UFC will probably be, because if I'm looking at it, Pantoja definitely not an immediate rematch. Definitely not. Pantoja would have to depend, possibly Figueiredo, but I mean, like you said, he's also been there, so maybe not him, maybe new blood. But I think after that, depending on what Brandon sounds like, looks like, how he engages specifically on social media regarding how the fight went, then possibly a rematch. Because I think because it went to decision, it wasn't clear cut. It was very close. It was split. So, from that perspective, you want to see something clear cut. But then again, it is a trilogy in theory, but you could go for the UFC trilogy. So it's going to be very interesting to see where Brandon goes now. If he's going to have another fight and then go for the title again, or how the matchmakers will handle it. But I mean, if I look at Pantoja's record, it's 26-5. Moreno's record is 21-7. So I mean, Pantoja's got a better record as well. So he's got a very strong case to say, look, I don't want to fight Moreno again. I fought him. I want to fight someone new, or I want to fight legend, i.e. Figueiredo, because I think Figueiredo would have to have at least one more fight before he goes to the title again as well, because he's also been there. So
And
it's going to be quite interesting.
And the big thing about the flyweight division, I think, in the UFC is that there's a lot of guys that it's hard to say their surnames. And unfortunately, I think that's a bit of a stigma, man. The harder your surname is to say, the longer it takes for people to start saying it. I'm not trying to be funny. In the flyweight division, there's a couple of unknowns. The names we're seeing now are the popular names, the names we've been seeing for a long time within the division. And now that there's no Henry Cejudo, Brandon Moreno and Pantoja have stepped up, and Figueroa have stepped up as the guardians of this division. Kaya, I need to see more of him. I need to see him fighting more. I need to see him more flyweight situations so that we can understand what this division actually looks like. Because right now it kind of looks like there's 4 guys in it, and they're all scrapping for the title. Right?
You keep coming back.
Yeah, but let us speak about the main event.
I was actually checking the flyweight rankings. Yes, you're quite right. I don't see any names here that look any kind of familiar. Tim Elliott, simply because I've seen a social media video of him where he's like, look, I got advice on social media about a specific fighter, and the tweet basically said, hit him in the eye because I found a video of him getting a cut here in the past, and he tried in the fight and worked. So that's the only reason I know Tim Elliott. Other than that, Manel Kape, I think because he fought someone big. I see what you mean. There's no real names in the flyweight division except for the 3 you mentioned, and Kara France, simply because mostly because apart from being highly ranked, he's at Izzy's gym. He's part of that team that you spoke of. So obviously, every time Izzy fights, he's going to be on a good card if he's a good fighter. So other than that, it's very difficult to look at the rest of the division and say, you know what, these are names, these are fights we've seen and we were very excited about it. Not really.
Exactly. I mean, I know Kaya because he knocked out Cody. Dirty. Exactly. He finished him.
Yep. when Cody tried
And
to go down a weight class and it failed.
and that video will always be synonymous with France, with Kaya France. And that's the biggest thing, is that there are stunners in this division and we just haven't seen them yet. And I think we should hold off on the main. We need to finish the sides first. We need to have some starters here. We need to see who the barn burners are in the flyweight division, and then we can eat the main course. So let
Like the
Pantoja.
featherweight division, though, like the
Yeah.
featherweight division is stacked, and the title fight was in the featherweight division between Yair Rodriguez and Alexander the Great Volkanovski. And
Yeah.
what a fight! What a fight! Volkanovski, and I think when we spoke about it before the fight, I said it, for me, after what he did against Brian Ortega, the resilience, the skill, the power, whatever you wanna call it, then what he did against Makachev, going up a weight class, going the full 5 round. I mean, for me, he's literally, the fact that he's pound for pound number one, 100%. John Jones, GOAT, sure. But Alexander Volkanovski is probably the most exciting fighter. Like, he's just phenomenal. And the fight against Yair, I mean, what can we say?
It solidifies him as the featherweight GOAT. It solidifies him as the pound for pound number one. The man takes risks and he doesn't care who stands in his way. In all honesty, I don't see. I would love another vacant. I would love another interim featherweight title. Give Max a chance. Let him destroy Ilya and
Topuria.
Topuria. Let him destroy Topuria, and then we have the biggest fight that we can do at featherweight, which is Max Holloway versus the Great, and that's it. I think we should stop playing games here, because this man he's eating people. Let him try at the biggest guy out there, the biggest guy he can possibly face, the mountain that nobody can climb, the Dagestanian situation, man. So
what do you think about Arnold Allen in that division? Because Arnold Allen, obviously, he's got a great record, 19-2. He
yes,
fought and he lost against Max Holloway. Where does he fit in all that? Because I mean, with that division where it is, Josh Emmett, Calvin Katz, I mean, that division is stacked. Brian Ortega hasn't fought since he lost to Alexander. So,
but that's the whole thing, because nobody knows now where they fit in, because their positions are so solidified. Brian Ortega is number 2. Max Holloway is number 1. These other guys are just trying to jump in and do the situation while they can. I think Alex has done something that no other champion has done. He's offered an open invitation. Other than Israel, maybe he's just learning from Izzy. He's offered an open invitation. He said anybody that wants to get it can get it. Calvin is simply not ready. Tim is not ready. Josh is not ready. These guys, we need. He needs to leave for a bit. Alex needs to leave the division, and he needs to go to lightweight. He needs to try to do his thing. If he gets the title, it would be the best thing for the featherweight division, because then everybody can sort out their spots where they need to be and then challenge the big guy. Because right
at
now,
this point, there's nothing for anyone to fight for. Basically,
exactly.
It's like, okay, cool. Max will fight who for what? To lose his number 1 spot? What's the point? Brian would fight who for what? I mean, there's no other fights to really make. Like, nothing that's really exciting on the top half of the table of the division.
Alex even said it. He was like, "Don't let Max fight Topuria, because don't let him do it, because he's gonna get flattened. He's gonna get killed, because Topuria can't fight against Calvin. I put it out there straight. Calvin is a better boxer, a better brawler, got a better reach, and if we're gonna stand and bang like we're playing this game in the featherweight division where nobody wants to go for the takedown, cool, let's do it. It's entertaining, it's lovely, but let's understand who those bangers are. You can't stand and bang with Max Holloway. You can't stand and bang with Calvin. Calvin is a mile behind Max, and Calvin is probably one of the best standard. I would love to see Tim and Calvin go at it. Actually,
Tim who?
Tim, is it Tim Allen? No, not Tim. Who's the
Arnold
other guy?
Allen.
Arnold Allen. Arnold Allen. Sorry, I'm thinking of Tim, somebody else. Tim Elliott, I think. Arnold Allen versus Calvin. That would be awesome. We need structure in our division. We need structure in the featherweight division. And the way
And then if Arnold wins that one, then he can take the number 3 over Ortega, because Ortega isn't very active right now. And if Ortega wants to maintain his number 3 spot, he needs to pick someone.
Exactly. And it's hard because Ortega had the most competitive fight, other than Max Holloway, against Alex Volkanovski. And I don't think he'd want to fight a lesser opponent because he feels like I put up the biggest fight against the champion. Who are you guys? I need to fight for the title again. And
nah.
we stagnating. We sitting in a stagnant position where Alex is an unstoppable force, and we need to move him to meet an immovable object. That's all I want to see. I want to see these two titans, immovable situations go up against each other because it was so competitive the first time. Charlie, really I love Charles. I love Charles Oliveira. Charles, have another fight. Fight somebody else. But then again, we don't want to run the risk of losing our momentum. So everybody's stuck in these situations where the more momentum Alex gets, the more undeniable it is we want to see him versus Islam. Alex Volkanovski.
You're Islam, are you taking that fight? Because Islam now would, because if you look at the lightweight division, it's not like the lightweight division isn't stacked. So
yes,
then he's wasting your time. They definitely have to go to an interim title. Let's talk about the lightweight division. Lightweight division, who do we see? What do we see as the next big fight in the lightweight division?
Well, we're getting it. We be getting the BMF title because the lightweight division isn't based on title and ranking. The lightweight division is based on violence. The lightweight division is probably the most violent, the most entertaining division to watch because we've got people like Justin Gaethje, people that we want to have a title, but we know probably will never get it. Dustin Poirier is never getting another title shot. He will never face, he will never get another title shot. Justin might, but the way it looks,
thing is, Dustin is number 2, right?
Yeah.
What would need to happen for him to get a title shot? Like, let's say, what would need to happen for Dustin Poirier to get a title shot? So let's assume he beats Justin, right? Like he did the first time. Let's assume, because Justin Gaethje is, so let's assume he does. What happens after he beats Justin? And what gets him to the title shot?
What gets Poirier to the title shot?
If he beats Gaethje.
The only thing is I do think he's going to beat Gaethje very convincingly again, because your boy is he's strong. He's strong.
He's the
big.
BMF.
Gaethje doesn't guard. I mean, we saw it in the first fight.
To be honest.
Yeah, we saw it in the first fight. He hacked at Dustin's leg, but he was keeping his hands down here. And Dustin's accuracy is insane. Insane. Every shot, every third combo he hit, it was on the money, on his head all the time. And we know old Justin loves to stand and move his head around and whatever, take the punishment. But it's not going to win him the fight against Dustin Poirier. It's not. Dustin Poirier will take him apart and demolish him if he doesn't come with a different game plan. So Dustin does that again against Justin. Dustin needs,
Dustin. Cool.
yeah, Dustin and Justin.
I
Yeah,
didn't notice.
it was a hard one. So Dustin needs to go out there, convincingly destroy Justin Gaethje, and then go off, talk a whole lot of noise about how he will take out Du Bronx, do that, and then we have him in title
But
contention.
do you see him fighting? Do you see Du Bronx fighting him again? If I'm Du Bronx, I'm like, listen, I'm coming for the title. I'm going for Makhachev. Presuming he wins, does he fight Poirier again? Because I'm just saying, assuming Islam.
No.
So okay.
Right? No,
yeah,
right?
Exactly, and that's the thing.
Because
so if Oliveira wins, when will Dustin ever get there?
He won't. He won't. Realistically, if we're looking at this division the way it is, Dustin's got 2 years left, or a year or so, realistically,
Call
to
it
be in
4 more
contention.
fights tops.
Yeah.
3 more fights.
We could be looking at a Tony Ferguson situation. Somebody that is so good and so dangerous to the champion, but just doesn't have the right time, doesn't have enough time in the division to get to that point to reach him in his prime, because Tony was a threat to Khabib. He was the biggest threat to Khabib. And then all of a sudden, he lost that momentum. He went downhill, and we pray that he gets his momentum back or he retires. Either one would be great.
After that head kick, that's the logo, he should retire. I'm sorry. Tony, you're great and everything, but ash, bro. Ash.
We got it. We got it up there.
Yeah.
We got it.
It's late, son.
It is. And I fear Dustin is going to be in the same situation, looking down the barrel of 35 or 36. And yeah, he's held the interim. He's held hopefully he's going to hold the BMF. I know we all think the BMF is a play title, but Dustin cries for titles, my man. Dustin loves a title. And if he wins, we're going to be having tears. He's going to be holding it like it's his child. Because I think Dustin knows that he's not going to get it. He fought against Khabib. He can't fight against the younger version. He can't.
So with regards to the BMF, you're quite right. Some people, MMA Twitter, look down on it. But one thing that Gamebred said, Jorge Masvidal, who obviously this belt was designed around, and I love the idea, is that he should be the one to give away this BMF title at this point. He should be the one awarding it. And from there, whoever the BMF champion is the one who puts it around the waist of the next BMF champion. My view is how the BMF champion should be worked is they should have some sort of general stats number, where they look at all your stats, number of fights, this, that, and the other per division. And then after a certain number of fights or a certain number of whatever, reaching that point, you get to fight for the BMF belt. So it's not just based on did you beat this person, did you beat that person, but it allows fighters to be continuously improving in specific statistical areas, so that when you see a fight, they say, listen, I'm going for the BMF title. I'm looking to be one of the BMFs. And right now I need a knockout, or right now I need a submission, or right now I need whatever it is. You know what I mean? Specific stats. I need to increase my significant strikes. I need to increase the number of fights I finished within one round. You know, all these small little things can be built into one stat. And then within each division, after a certain period, you say, right now, these two are the ones fighting for BMF because they're the ones who meet the specific. And then specific point system. And then from there, you can have a credible BMF title that actually has value, because you can say, we are giving it to this person, or we're letting these two fight because prove yourself in this category. Here you go.
I think that's beautiful, man. I think that's brilliant to especially with significant strikes, violence, bleeding in fights, biggest trash talker that backs up what he's talking about. You know what I mean? These are things.
Exactly. Use all those weird metrics. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's statistics that we can actually put down into a spreadsheet and actually see, okay, this guy's actually doing this guy's doing that, this guy's actually a real BMF. And you've actually inspired me, man. I think we should put it out to the followers, put it out to the followers on Instagram, put it to the followers on YouTube, everybody. We need to ask people who's on the BMF list. Who
Or
is
they take a counter, a vote, similar to the way they vote on Big Brother. You say, okay, guys, BMF title for this, that, and the other. Give us who you want to see fight each other to make it like a fans special fight. Like, I'm just saying, there's so many ways to give the BMF belt credibility, because I think it's the kind of belt that the UFC needs.
It does.
You're not necessarily the best fighter. You've not won the certain number of matches. You haven't ducked this person in order to climb rankings. You haven't done all those weird things. You are literally the top of this thing and this guy, and let's go, you know? Like, they need something like that.
You're the people's champ.
If it goes by votes, correct.
And,
or you use the stats to say, vote on these people. So the stats let the audience then vote as to which one of, let's say, 5 to 10 fighters that fit those categories that they then want to see fight each other. So I guess that would be more of a PFL format. Then you can even go leagues. But my point is, the BMF belt, I love it, and I think they can do so much with it.
It does. It does do a lot for every division, because you start asking the question, do we move it into, is it just one belt that transcends all the divisions? Are we going to have BMF belts for every division? It breeds such a hectic question. And if there's only one belt, how hard will people try to get it? Because there's some guys like Dustin Poirier that will never, ever hold a championship, but deserve to be recognized for how awesome they are. And we give that credibility to the fighters, and it's beautiful. I think we should ask our followers who they think should be on a BMF list. I think we should create BMF lists, put it out there, and ask people that are watching, subscribing on Instagram and everything. Guys, by the way, like, subscribe, follow, share, all that stuff, to make their own BMF list. And it would be so awesome to see all the fighters that are on everybody's list. You know what I mean? Because for me, Max Holloway is like one of the biggest BMFs of all time. And why isn't he fighting Poirier? Why isn't he fighting Justin? Why isn't he in the BMF contention? Because he's trying to fight for a real title. But BMF is a real title.
Although if it becomes real title, let's take Max Holloway, going back to the featherweight division. Let's say he or that division has a BMF strap. Who would he be fighting for the BMF? Like, let's say, and actually, curious question, at what intervals would you have a BMF fight? I would say once a year per division. So basically, you have a year to stack a certain number of stats while still making sure you're fighting for position and ranking. So you're not just fighting. Allow fighters to not fight, because the one thing that the matchmakers always want to look at is, how do we make these fights more exciting, more dynamic, such that fighters aren't just coming in there, if you know you're good on the ground, just go in, grab the guy, choke him out, and the fight's over. They're always looking for different ways to make the fights more exciting. And I think that's one way you can make the fight more exciting, is by making sure that, irrespective if you're Dustin, right, and you're a stand-and banger, I need a few stats on this. So suddenly you see Dustin in a takedown because he needs a couple of takedown stats to take him up to whatever will get him to BMF, for example.
Exactly.
So, it allows fighters to think more dynamically, for coaching staff to think more dynamically, not just about their opponents, but also, how do we prove that we are the baddest fighter out?
Exactly. And having that monicum as the baddest mother trucker around that's what fighting is. That's what we want to see. We want to know who is the baddest homie, who makes everybody scared. And we know the champions. We know that the rankings are important. We know that fighting for number one contender, number one champion, all that stuff is important. But for entertainment value, BMF is like saying you are the most entertaining fighter for fighting. In all aspects of fighting, whether you're on the mic, whether you walking down the street, if you look at the two first people that did it, they both personified the BMF. Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal
Okay, Masvidal.
are the two like consummate gangsters. And if we're taking those two into account, these two guys that are coming next, Dustin and Justin, their first fight was insane. It was
Imagine.
violent. It was beautiful, and it wasn't a one-sided situation. You really didn't know who was going to win, and when Dustin won, it felt satisfactory for everybody that was watching, whether you wanted Gaethje to get the knockout or whether you wanted Dustin to do what he does. It was satisfying. And I think that when you look at fights like the legend Robbie Lawler versus McDonald, that's a fight that'll be solidified in the memories of UFC lovers for years and years to come. I mean, seeing I don't know, I think it's Rory McDonald, seeing his face like dented in, his nose there was like literally nothing left. It was just like this flat surface. You couldn't see his face, man. It was just blood. For me, I think that was the creation of the first BMF. And the retiring of the original BMF, Robbie Lawler, to be an actual champion. And I think that is what BMF represents, and what it brings is the true essence of what it means to watch
Be a fighter.
MMA.
It's violence.
Yes,
Blood
it is.
is points.
Yes.
Injuring your opponent is
Yes.
points. So taking outside of the normal judging criteria. So you're not looking at octagon controls and all that sort of stuff. It's all the other things. Number of followers on your socials. That definitely counts, because that's where you really get the bad. Going into restaurants to punch your opponents. Well,
exactly. Who is the most controversial star? And by bringing in the BMF, do you think that this could be Dana White's sneaky way of bringing back his child, Conor McGregor? Because is there a better way to resurrect the dead than to take the winner of the BMF and to make them fight Conor McGregor?
But Conor is not likely to come back at lightweight, but yes.
No, but if Dustin wins, he'll go up to any weight to fight Conor again, because that's money, yo.
But then the question is, do we want to see 4 times Conor versus Justin?
We're going to find out. We are
But
going
I want
to
see
find out.
after that leg break, you know, it was a case where there's a case for it. There's a case for it simply because the last fight just didn't end. It was doctor stoppage.
And even if Justin wins, there's still, because Justin has 2 paths. Justin can go the money route, call out Conor and say, Conor, come fight me for the BMF because I need some cash. Or he can go straight to the head of the snake and go for Islam or Charles, because he is dangerous enough to call his shot if he takes out the older legend in Dustin. Because Dustin has been there. Dustin's been on the top of the mountain. He's fought Khabib. He's been in the big promotions. Essentially, in his MMA lifespan, it's time to go to PFL or something, or bare knuckle, or just retire, because selling hot sauce looks like it's going well. So if he wins, the Conor McGregor fight is probably the best way to go. If he loses, retiring or bare knuckle is the best way to go. And for Justin, if he wins, the world is his oyster. He can call his shots.
I agree. He's got another case for a title shot if he beats Dustin. If Dustin loses, it'll be tough to say who he must fight at that point. All he'll be doing is fighting to give up his spot to Fazib or someone else at the bottom, because I don't see where he'll be.
Fazib, your boy is dirty. Your boy is insane. Lightweight division. You can't not mention that, homie.
Ataman.
Wild,
violent.
Yeah. And that's another BMF, and that's why the lightweight division isn't about championship. It isn't about, Islam is so unentertaining as a vocal fighter. He is so lucky he's in the lightweight division to have the other guys pick up the slack to make it an entertaining division, because we have fighters that will just watch no matter what fight they're in the lightweight division, like Rafael. And it just brings the new spin. Is the champion that important? With BMF titles, with things like that, is he actually, if he is not vocal and he's not like Israel, is he important to the division? Does he actually bring essence? Does he bring spice? Does he make that title valid? Israel makes his title valid. Alex makes his title valid. Islam, you need to make the title valid. You need to say things. You need to tell people you're the best, and then you need to dominantly show it.
For at least 3 defenses, of which he's done 1 against Volkanovski.
Yeah. And it wasn't even that entertaining because Alex was carrying the promotion of the fight. And the more that's going to start happening, the less we're going to want to see it. The less we're going to want to see. It's like if Justin goes up against Islam, Justin will be vocal like he was with Khabib. The difference is he won't have Khabib's funny little, I think this guy don't want to break arm because parents there, I put him to sleep. I like Justin.
Yeah.
I like Justin. Exactly. And that for us is entertaining. We've got this dominant guy just relaxing and chilling and saying, I'm going to take this dude. And there is that scariness that he might lose and thinking like, wow, what happens if Khabib loses and Justin really takes it? With Islam, there isn't that. There isn't that excitement. If he fights against Volkanovski, it'll be exciting because Volkanovski's fighting and might be able to beat him. But ordinarily, I don't think there'd be a situation with Islam in the lightweight division that brings an exciting fight without a big trash talker. You know what I mean? Pulling the fight. And that takes away his credibility as a champion, unfortunately, no matter how good he is.
Yeah, that's fair enough. We had a great conversation about UFC 290. It was an absolute banger. And I'm looking forward to 293, where Dricus and Israel go at it toe-to-toe, head-to-head, banger, fire, fist, blood, technical prowess, chess match. I'm looking forward. It's going to be an amazing fight.
It's going to be insane. Can't wait for 293. But we've got the BMF titles coming up. We've got 292. That's going to be hot, hot, hot. And apparently we've got a vacant lightweight title in the mix at 291. So we're going to see what's going to be going on. We're going to be chatting about it and screaming, kick him in the head.
That's right. Everyone, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. All our channels at Headkick Pod, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. Let's get it. Kick him in the head. Out. Woo!